Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're back because there's so much information that must be covered here. The doctor, when you get a doctor in the studio, you need to make sure and use their time efficiently because they've got so much valuable information they can do to help people. And Dr. Chad Weber here is really doing a great job to inform us. He's the owner and founder of Chiro-Med and does an awesome job. He has started regenerative neuropathy of O'Fallon. And if you want to let's be clear with everybody, what is neuropathy specifically and how does that affect people?
So neuropathy, to keep it simple, is basically, Latin for nerve problem, right? So basically in peripheral neuropathy patients, what's happening is that their nerves are basically short-circuiting and misfiring due to lack of proper circulation. So if you think about a nerve like a plant, for example, like everything that's living needs oxygen and nutrients, or in plants' case, like carbon dioxide, in order to live. With peripheral neuropathy, basically what's happening, the microcirculation at the cellular level is deteriorating. So as a nerve's not getting blood flow, it's not getting oxygen and nutrients it needs to live. And what starts to happen is, to keep it simple, is that nerve starts to short circuit and starts misfiring. Next thing you know, numbness and tingling, pins and needles, hot and cold. They lose balance, all those types of things. I get patients coming to the office say, how can my feet be on fire and freezing at the same time? It doesn't make any sense. Well, each one of those nerve pathways is a different nerve pathway. And as they deteriorate, the combination of symptoms can be endless, And
now is it a matter of the nerves go to every nook and cranny? Does every cell have a nerve connected to it so that the sensitivity is felt there? And that's why you get numbness in some areas?
Literally every cell in your body has a nerve supply to it. So I tell patients, think about a circuit breaker in your house. If I start flipping breakers in your house, the kitchen doesn't work, the bathroom doesn't work, right? It's the same thing with the nerves in your body. If you start switching off nerves and shutting off the communication system of your body, the body can't function normally. So whether it be like a sciatica pain shooting down your leg, or a digestive issue in your stomach, or in the case of peripheral neuropathy, the nerve is literally deteriorating and dying. And if the nerve communicates everything to your brain, you're losing communication, and that's why, particularly people with balance issues, with peripheral neuropathy, because the nerves in the bottom of their feet communicate to their brain where their body's at on the earth. So you start losing that signal. Next thing you know, you're wobbling around, falling over, and everything else.
Not a good path for life if you want to be happy on this little planet. Imagine cutting off your connectivity to the world and knowing what's going on. If for those people, there are people on our little planet that are blind. And imagine, that's a very difficult situation, but not being able to see or feel what's going on if you lost sensitivity, touch, and that's really what's happening, right?
Exactly.
And you can't. And I've got that. I had that nerve problem where I would just be standing. I went to my doctor and I said, Dr. Kyle, or Dr. Chris, two doctors, buddies of mine. Dr. Kyle LeBlanc is a good friend of mine too. And I said, what's going on here? This is Dr. Chris McCluskey, and the nerve essentially was being pinched because of something in my back that led to my thigh, and then I can't feel that. And it starts. I'm like, why is this numb? I'm not outside in the cold. Yeah. But imagine that's going to something like your heart or your lungs. What are people really putting at risk here when they ignore these kinds of signs that there's something going on?
Well, you have to realize, again, it's how your body functions. And so it's a communication system. So I tell patients, if you have 5 bars on your cell phone, I have 1 bar on my cell phone, we don't talk very well, right? And that's what those nerves are doing to your body. So, not only people understand like a pinched nerve can associate with pain, numbness, tingling, things of that nature. They don't really understand that those same nerves control all your internal organs, right? So if you're not getting proper signal to an organ, it can't do its job the way it's supposed to. So how can you expect your body to function at an optimal level if the communication's cut off, right? And that's really where chiropractic as a whole is what it's based around, and the peripheral neuropathy stuff we do is a bit different because it's from the environment up. So like with peripheral neuropathy, your body's losing communication from the environment to your head, to your brain, to communicate what's going on. And like you said, imagine walking around blind. It's a pretty rough place to be. Now imagine your body walking around and you don't feel things, right? That's why, like our diabetic patients in particular, they get lacerations on their feet and they don't feel it. So then the laceration gets infected, stays infected, and guess what happens next? They start amputating toes and things like that. So it's why it's highly important for your nervous system to be functioning, because it really communicates everything your body's doing.
Yes. When you put it that way, that's why I want to say, what is neuropathy specifically? And neural paths. I had a neuro brain surgeon, a neurosurgeon that worked on me based on if anybody see the scar on my head, but my brain got rocked, and then the paths that communicated with the rest of my body had to all be retrained. It was a mess. Yeah. But we're not just talking about somebody's back pain here. We're talking about, and that's another really important piece, but there's so much more to it. I think a lot of people will now better assimilate what's going on here when you're talking about the whole nervous system for the entire body, down to your toes, the top of your head. These are important things that if you start losing those sensitivities, you're really, and like I said, what are the implications behind somebody who's actually losing sensitivity, but they're having problems with their breathing, or they're having problems with their kidneys or their liver? These are all connected by your neural paths, right, that are monitoring and checking everything. This could be life-threatening stuff.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Your body's a machine. That's how I'm a car person, so I think about the body as being a machine. So like everything is designed to work in conjunction with each other, right? So if you have pieces that are dysfunctioning or misfunctioning and not communicating properly, and things aren't doing their job to their fullest ability, it puts stress on the rest of the system, right? So then your body's highly fatigued, it's burning energy and utilizing more energy than it really needs to get the basics of life done. It's just like a downward spiraling effect, and that's the problem with health in general, is that if we don't actively focus on it, you just end up on this downward spiraling life cycle, and most people don't want to be there. But the problem, by the time you get there, it's just more stress, more work, more effort, more money, to get yourself out of that situation. So that's why prevention helps out.
Well, and that's where you get back into how was this treated? And then they go back to, well, this pill will make the pain go away. Mm-hmm. And that's not fixing the problem.
Exactly.
That's just masking something so that you don't feel the pain. And we don't want to feel the pain, no doubt, but it's best to make sure you're fixing the root cause. Like when I have the numbness in my thigh, it wasn't my thigh, just like the nerves stopped working because they weren't connected at that root. It goes back to the spine, it goes up to the brain. Those are the things they've got to trace down the problem here to fix that, right?
Yeah, and that's like we're in our office, patients come in, we haven't watched educational videos. So again, talking about neuropathy here in this situation. The patients come in, we do a consultation with them, we actually have them sit down, watch a 20-minute video that educates the patient on what exactly is going on, what causes neuropathy, and why, unfortunately, the medications they're taking isn't going to fix it. Because I get why people take the gabapentin, and I get why they take the meds, and I'm not anti them taking it in the short term, because they want relief. They're miserable, right? I understand that. But the problem is they keep taking the medications. They're just masking a problem. And what ends up happening is the disease keeps progressing. It doesn't stop getting worse. You know what I mean? So as you're masking the issue, you're going from, like a stage 1, stage 2 issue into a stage 3, stage 4, right?
Wow. And
eventually the medications, quote unquote, quit working. And it's not because the medication didn't quit working. It's because the disease got so bad the medication can't mask it anymore. And that's where, again, when we do in our clinic with educating patients on what the situation is and what needs to be done to fix it, is highly important, because you got to kind of change the patient's mentality towards health, and have them really understand what's going on.
We jump to the neuropathy page on Dr. Chad's website here, chiromedophyllin.com/neuropathy. I'll show you up on the screen here. I'm going to put this on the wall for everybody to see. But this is the location where you can find out services, neuropathy, and then Dr. Chad Weber here talking about his kind of got his YouTube channel embedded here in his website. But if you want to learn a lot more about these issues and how Dr. Chad can help you, you learn a little bit more from the doctor here, and then take time to schedule to come in and see him and get these issues taken care of, because these are not things that you want to ignore. This is something, like you said, degenerative over time, as a matter of you feel a little bit of that pain or lack of sensitivity, I guess, a lot of times, and it starts to spread and it goes to and creates other problems. This is what people need to watch out for.
Yeah, and that's where every day we have very similar conversations with a lot of people, and everyone understands cancer, unfortunately. My mom passed away from cancer. Like, we understand what stage 1, 2, 3, and 4 is, right? But most disease processes have a similar staging situation. In like any disease, the earlier you catch it, the better the long-term outcomes are going to be. And the more you ignore a situation, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. You're going to be forced to deal with it eventually, right? So if you keep putting it off, it's just going to, again, more stress, more time, more loss of quality of life, the whole 9 yards.
And degenerative to the point where organs start to fail, you have major problems, and that's where people have diabetes.
And especially with the diabetics and the amputations, you know what I mean? Because the problem is it starts affecting larger and larger blood vessels, and as it affects larger tissues. And then you get necrotic toes, and once you get to that stage, they take your toes off. And then we have a guy that unfortunately does not start care in our office, and we talked to him about a month and a half ago. He had already lost 2 toes. He didn't want to do care. 3 months later, I think it was, he lost 2 more toes. And I talked to the gentleman. I'm like, man, they're coming for your foot. I'm not trying to be doom and gloom, which is the honest to God truth. Unless you change what you're doing, you can't expect a different result. And he keeps doing the same thing and expecting something different to happen. And unfortunately, it's not how it works.
Got to be treated properly. With that leads me to the first question for this little chat we have here. What's one big mistake that a lot of people make that something could easily have been averted. Something, a mistake he made, I guess, that they're going, hey, I could treat this myself. I could ignore it. What do people often do that makes this worse?
The biggest thing is ignoring it. You know what I mean? They don't take it seriously. They don't think it's not going to be them. You know what I mean? That's the problem with a lot of our mentalities. And, you know, if I'm being honest, I've had that in my head at times too. It's like, it's not going to be you. You know what I mean?
Right.
And unfortunately, like if you have diabetes and it's out of control and you're not changing your lifestyle, and you're not changing your diet, and you have peripheral neuropathy as an example, like it's not going to get better on its own unless you change what you're doing. And that, I would say, is the biggest mistake, is that people just bury their head in the sand like it's not going to be them until it's them. You know, and then they're in such a deteriorated state. It's not that they can't be fixed. It's just like having stage 4 cancer. If you have stage 1 cancer, your outcomes are drastically different than having stage 4, right?
Right.
It's the same thing with any healthcare issue. If you just keep burying your head in the sand like it's not going to be you, unfortunately, it's probably the worst thing you could do.
Right. Well, the body is an incredible machine and does a lot that has it built in naturally to heal, but you've got to let those processes function properly. And that's what chiropractic typically fixes, right? It's to say, you've got the natural systems built, make sure they run properly. If you're ignoring these issues, you're not going to get these things fixed and you're not going to recover.
Yeah, the human body is an amazing thing. It's like a race car. It can do amazing stuff given the opportunity to do it. But the thing about in our country is that our healthcare system is so kind of upside down that most people don't either find the right place and get in an environment where that opportunity is being placed in front of them, right? Or they just keep beating their, you know, again, if you have a race car and you give it terrible fuel, as in dietary habits, what do you think you're going to get out? You're not going to get Ferrari performance. You know what I mean? Right. And it's kind of how the system works. So unfortunately, a lot of people don't get in the right place and get the right education and the right tools, because I mean, you're not a doctor. You know, it's not about the patient knowing everything. But if they don't ever get into the right environment where they actually get taught something, they just keep doing the same stuff.
Pay attention to your body, right? It speaks to you regularly. Are you going to ignore it? I didn't know what the answer would be for what's the biggest problem, but people, they ignore the signs,
problems,
right? Saying, here's a problem, alert, alert, address this, don't cover it up, but don't just take the pain meds, get something to resolve the issue and treat the core process.
Exactly.
Tell me the process for, well, before I get to that, tell me a time when you feel like you really helped somebody. I'm sure there's got to be hundreds of clients.
Man, we have these conversations all the time, but the most recent one, we have a patient, she's 18 years old, so she's got leukemia. I might tie her up about this. She had leukemia. She has leukemia. Luckily, she's still rocking and rolling. We had to carry her in the clinic. So she had peripheral neuropathy from the chemotherapy and radiation medication, right? So when she got to our office, I had to go out in the parking lot, pick her up out of the car, put her in a wheelchair, and bring her in. She's been on the program now 4 months, I think it's been. Unfortunately, she hasn't been in the office as much as we'd like to see her because she's been doing other therapies and stuff like that with her treatment. But she sent us a video 3 weeks ago. And like I said, she was being in a wheelchair. She was walking around her house. You know what I mean? She's walking from her living room to the kitchen. Is she 100%? No. You know what I mean? The girl's going through a heck of a battle right now. But she was able to walk, and that's amazing.
There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Put the hat on for that. We're doing good things to help the community and really have an impact specifically on somebody going through leukemia, you said she's doing.
Yeah, so unfortunately, chemotherapy and radiation is the second leading cause of neuropathy in the United States now because there's so much cancer that's out there, right? And one of the reasons I got involved with this program when I came across it completely on accident, my mom passed away from cancer, and she had neuropathy in her hands so bad that she basically couldn't pick up a cup. She couldn't write her name. She couldn't touch anything that was not room temperature, you know, so I kind of saw it firsthand. But unfortunately, the chemotherapy and radiation destroys your nerves. You know, you're fixing one thing, but you're creating a whole other issue, right? And we have a lot of patients in our office with the chemotherapy and radiation-induced neuropathy. They get great results. But that particular situation, 18-year-old girl, you know, battling for her life and got her ability to walk back, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's when you're really making some impactful, gaining some impactful results because, gosh, when you got somebody on the verge, I mean, leukemia, I'll never forget, there was a kid I played baseball against, and we had a big fundraiser and all that kind of stuff because he had been going through leukemia. It strikes kids a lot of times and can bring an end that we don't want to see. But when you can help them recover now that she could walk when she wasn't able to before, is that what you were saying?
Yeah, and that's the thing. So she's going through all these things, right? She's going through chemotherapy and radiation treatment. She's battling that aspect of it. She's trying to go through occupational therapy and do those other things at the same time because it basically just destroyed her. Well, if you can't walk, it's kind of hard to do these other things they tried having her doing, you know? So she came in and joined our program, and luckily with our programs, patients have the ability to do it at home. We encourage people to come into the office if they're local to the area. But if they can't make it in due to inability to mobilize, they can do the program from home and still get great results. I mean, right now we have patients in 5 different states. that are doing the programs from home and literally coming in our office every 30 days for reevaluations. But it gave her the ability to do the program at home, because I think she came to the clinic for maybe 3 weeks. She was able to come in, and then because of other therapies she had to do, she didn't have the time. But she kept doing the stuff at home and kept committing to the process in the comfort of her house. And I said 4 months later, she's walking again.
There you go. Now we're talking about results and what you can do to really impact our little planet. Which leads to what I wanted to ask you before, but let's get into this. What is the process? Somebody says, doctor, I want to use your services. I want to become a client. What is the process for somebody to do that?
So obviously I get in the office first. So, call the office, 618-622-2222. You can go on our website, Facebook page, social media. You can go through all those things. You'll talk to my office manager, Lindsay, or April 2 at the front desk. They'll get your appointment set up. Once you get in the clinic, our process is similar in certain ways to a lot of other offices, but different in others as far as how we approach the situation in our evaluation process. With our neuropathy things, most patients that come and say that we've never had an exam like this. We've been to neuropathy clinics. Most of those clinics are pain management clinics. They're given injections and pain medications. Their evaluation process is completely different. So they come in, we do full sensory evaluation. We do thermal imaging of their feet to actually evaluate the microcirculation to their nerves. Once they do that part of the process, it's kind of a two-step deal. We get together with, we get our team together, map out treatment plans. We have them come back on the second day. We go over everything, answer all their questions. Encourage them to bring a spouse or a loved one with them to answer any other questions that might pop up. Go over all the insurance stuff, all the fun things, and if they're on board, we get them back on track.
Yeah, and that's the process. They meet with you on a regular basis, and then you say, hey, here's the path. We're going to continue to make improvements and treatments and adjustments. What all?
Yeah, so depending on what they're coming in for, we have different treatment programs, I guess. We do a variety of different things at the office. When we got spinal decompression people that are trying to avoid having spinal surgeries due to herniated and bulging discs, stuff like that. Each pathway can be different in its frequency of visits and stuff of that nature, but we're constantly doing reevaluations about every 30 days in the patient's condition, make alterations to their treatment plan if we have to. And just kind of guide them through the whole process. We have patient portals, so they have online apps they have access to. It's called Body Sites, so they actually get an app that tells them every day what you're supposed to do. Here's how you take your supplements. Here's your exercises. Here's a motivational video for the day, right? It comes with meal plans and grocery lists and snack options. Like, it's about as all-encompassing as you can find, probably in the healthcare world, but definitely in the chiropractic profession. So it's not just about getting adjusted. We do rehab and all that type of stuff, but also about, again, making you as healthy as a human being as possible, right? Because it comes with, we give with nutritional guidance that comes with everything, and just kind of a more well-rounded approach, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I mean, this is where you're really digging in and helping make an impact, and you've got a plan. You've got things outlined. It's great to see you got the app and all the other components that help people to develop, especially when they can do stuff on their own at their own home, rather than have to come in all the time. So it's help them stay on that path. With that, then tell us, what's a big challenge that often you see people have to overcome, or you've had to overcome within your business to help people? What is the challenge that's constant that looms?
The biggest thing, honestly, is probably changing people's mentality. They come in the office, they're used to going to, again, I use Dr. Smith as an arbitrary name, but go to his office and they get the medications and they go home and they might help their symptoms for a while. But the biggest thing is patient's mentality to what health actually is and what it's going to take to get their health back, right? Like, you can't just... Like I told you, you can't just go to the gym once a month and get results, right? Like, you got to go to the gym 4 or 5 days a week to get some real results. Health is the same thing. It's something you got to work on a consistent basis, and that's the biggest problem. We have two types of patients in our office. The third type of patient doesn't really work out. So type 1 patients are people that are committed to getting better. They'll do 110% without much guidance. They're pretty easy to deal with. Type 2 patients are people that really want to get better. They kind of fall off the wagon here and there, need some help staying on track. And we're happy to do that, but they still get results and they're committed. Type 3 people are the people that honestly don't really value their quality of life, in my opinion. They just want to take the pills. They want the shortcut. They want the quick fix. They don't want to put in the effort. And unfortunately, in our office, they either don't start care, or they don't last very long, because that's not how we operate. So if you want to get better, you're going to have to put in the work.
Well, and there's a lot of times people take that shortcut in life. We've heard that story so many times before. But it's either do the work now or pay for it later, kind of thing, right? I mean, if you're not willing to put the effort in now, it saves you the work later, rather than saying, hey, let me put this off, and now you've got an insurmountable amount of obstacles to overcome, and boy, that makes life a lot more difficult.
100%, and that's what I tell people too. It's like, you're going to pay. Pick your pay. You're going to pay, with poor health and lack of mobility and lack of quality of life, and you're still going to pay for your insurance and your prescription medications and your disability and all that type of stuff, or you're going to pay to be healthy. You pick your path. I can't make anybody do anything, but we're more than happy to help you guide you through this process and keep you on track. But like I said, you're going to pay one way or another. With health and quality of life, or poor health and lack of quality of life. I don't know how else to really describe it.
Well, that's where we break out the pencil for taking notes, everybody. Take note. You're going to have to deal with this one way or the other. Why would you take the harder, more difficult path? Take the time, spend a little time, take the extra to do it now, because it's going to come out one way or the other. Do it now or do it later. Take note, everybody. Hey, great notes here from our doctor, Dr. Chad Weber, doing a great job to really help our community and keep up some great work. Chiro-Med of O'Fallon. Keep up the good work here, doctor. We've got a little bit more to discuss here, because it seems like there's so much to cover and there's just not enough time in the day. You do seminars. Tell me about the seminars that you guys have. I'm going to put this up on the wall here for everybody. You've got seminars that you do, and this is a bi-weekly basis or twice a month?
So we do 2 days a month. We do seminars. One day we do 2 seminars in one day. So I guess technically we do 3 seminars a month on peripheral neuropathy. So the goal is that it's they're free. There's no charge to come in and attend the seminar. They last about an hour. It's an educational piece, basically. So the patients come in. We actually provide a little lunch, some sandwiches and some chips and stuff like that. And basically the goal is to educate patients on what neuropathy is and what the situation is, and why, again, their gabapentin or Lyrica and Balta, whatever they're taking, isn't fixing the root cause of the problem, right? Unfortunately, these patients get kind of snake bit by the medical world. They've been here, they've been there. We've had patients at the Mayo Clinic. We've had people go all over the country chasing this thing around. The fact of the matter is, I don't care what hospital you go to, you get the same care. You know what I mean? The same, and that's what the seminar is designed to do, is to educate the patient on what the cause of neuropathy is, unfortunately why the gabapentin and medications aren't fixing their problem, what the long-term implications of peripheral neuropathy are, and what our approach is about in order to, turn the tide of their disease and fix the problem.
Fix the problem, everybody. Why would you not want to address this and go right to it? In the seminars they offer, again, I'll put this up for everybody to see, allow you access to this so you can get the information you need and fix the problem. These seminars really do a great job of really helping people to understand. All of it goes into making good care for somebody who's been through any kind of situation health-wise where doctor of chiropractic can really help them to recover and get back to their normal self.
Yeah, so it pretty much answers a majority of the questions that patients have when it comes to peripheral neuropathy. You know what I mean? Like, people just go through this disease without any education. So our goal is just to teach people about what's going on, give them the opportunity to get an evaluation done, see what we can do for their particular situation, if they qualify for what we do. But it answers a lot of questions that people have with a particular disease.
Great. Well, that's what we like to see. What do you get the most satisfaction out of by doing your job? What's most rewarding for you?
Like I said before, just helping people change their life. Like, it's an amazing thing to be able to take someone who's in a terrible situation and help them turn their life around, as long as they're willing to commit to the process. We're not miracle workers. We just put the game plans in place and put them on the path. But when someone takes control of their life and actually commits to the process and changes their direction, it's a pretty impressive, deal. So of all the things we do and keep it simple, I guess that's I get the most satisfaction out of it.
Well, you're really having an impact on people as a matter of health and liveness, wellness, they call that. And so often people get stuck. I mean, my own mother, I won't say her age, but she figure out how old I am. She's going to be at least 20 years older than me or so, right? A little more than that. But just by going through the right path, she had one doctor come in and said, you got to replace both your knees. There's no way around it. You'll be coming back to see me. She had another doctor come in and say, we can inject essentially pseudo cartilage, I guess is what it was. And now she can walk and everything's fully functional without having to go through replacing 2 knees. These are just kind of the different types of, if you just do the research, the information is out there, you can do regenerative things, especially when you're talking about neuropathy. But when you're talking about those are the things you can help people to recover. I mean, we're going for somebody who had 1%, and now they're up to 75%. How impactful is that? Yeah,
that's the thing. There's so many things that are out there. Across the healthcare spectrum. It's not just in our office, but more often than not, the patients, it's medications and surgery. It's taking a pill, pain injections, and ultimately it leads to surgery. Like, not saying those things aren't necessary. Unfortunately, In our clinic, we probably send someone to have spinal surgery once a month, you know, but the goal is to avoid it. It should be a last resort. It shouldn't be the first thing that we're all jumping to. And in a lot of situations, due to the healthcare system we have, that's the path people get kind of pushed down, right? They don't really get taught that there's an alternative to doing these things. And unfortunately, when you start cutting on people in particular, there's no going back. You can't take back a spinal fusion. You know, like you can't take back a knee replacement. If you get an infection or, God forbid, you throw a clot and have a heart attack or something, I mean, it can be, unfortunately, there's massive repercussions if things go bad, you know. And you should try to take more natural, holistic, you know, approaches before you end up in those scenarios. Sometimes they're necessary, but we try to avoid it.
Yeah, well, and you get the proper recovery so that you can have that fulfill. I mean, because when you start cutting off, people are losing toes and, and feet because of, or my mom's case, we were taking out the knees, and she's got these metal knees now. And how long do those last, and how functional are those compared to? Go with what God gave you, right?
Yeah, I mean, I said obviously you want to keep all your appendages. You know, you don't want people to lose toes. You don't want people to lose anything. You know, knee replacements have a shelf life of about 10 years. You know, you're only going to do it twice.
Really?
You know, so if you're having knee replacements at 50,
you're done.
If your average life expectancy is 83 years old, you see where you're looking at. You know, but yeah, you try to keep all the pieces you got where they're at and keep them as functioning, as healthy, and as well as humanly possible. The body can last you a pretty long time, but we got to get away from depending on medications and surgeries as our saviors, because it's not fixing much of anything.
Yeah, not taking care of the root problem. Well, with that, tell me, how do you feel you best contribute to the community? There's a couple charities you work with, a lot of stuff you do. I mean, just by helping people.
Yeah, I mean, obviously our goal is to help people improve their quality of life and those types of things. That's what our practice is based around. You know, we've done a lot of community outreach stuff. Unfortunately, like pre-COVID land, we did tons of presentations. I was probably out in the community twice a month doing free speeches and stuff like that, just to kind of educate the public. I'm a big dog person, so I've we contributed to dog rescue groups over the years. Stray Rescue St. Louis, Randy's Rescue Ranch, Partners for Pets. Our new patient fees would go towards them. We donate our new patient fees to them. We recently, a couple months back, got approved by Folds of Honor. We saw them in a seminar we went to. So going forward, hopefully this year, we're getting things lined up. 12 of our new patient fees that come into the clinic will be donated to Folds of Honor. People that don't know, they basically help pay for scholarships for family and like spouses and children of service members that have either been disabled due to their service or unfortunately, you know, were lost in action and things of that nature. So that's the next charity we're looking forward to working with.
Yeah, well, and Folds of Honor is one of my all-time favorites too, and I've done some work with those guys, been to events with them, and they've been great sponsors for a lot of good stuff. I'm going to put them up on the wall behind us, but if you're a big supporter, here's the St. Louis rendition of that, and boy, I know the guys who help run that, and they do a lot of cool, fun stuff in our community. Yeah. And it's got to feel good for you to be able to give back and help work with dogs. I've a big passion. I love my dogs too. And be a leader in the community to help make a difference on our little planet. But Folds of Honor, check them out. This is stlewis.foldsofhonor.org. Give it up for Dr. Chad Weber here, making this work for us so that we can learn, be healthy. Stay tuned, everybody. We'll be back. Giddy up.
Thank you.